and we are live with another edition of Fleetcast, and this week's episode is all about Her from Doctor Who, Season 2.
Season 2, Episode 11.
See, you're so much better at... Do you know what I've done? I've not changed the screens so that they can't even hear us. Or they can hear us, because I think my mic is now active on this screen. Oh well. I'll edit.
And take 2.
And we are live with another
to
edition of Doctor Who review. And for anyone who is slightly confused about why we look so tired, is because this is the second attempt to record this because I messed up the first one. So yes, this week we are here. Me and Ben are here. It's very late UK time to discuss the Season 2 episode of Doctor Who.
11.
Pardon?
Season 2, Episode 11.
Oh, Season 2, Episode 11. Yes, as Ben likes to remind me, we are so close to what's it called?
Army of Ghosts and Doomsday.
That's it, Doomsday, and that song, Doon. Oh,
It actually appears a couple of times before that.
It does, and I didn't realise until this episode it actually appears ever so slightly in this episode.
At the end.
Yes, but we are so close to my favourite episodes of Season 2, and to be fair, I think these are the... Doomsday and Army of Ghosts, I think, are my favourite episodes of David Tennant's run.
They're up there for me.
Yes.
Ironically... excuse me, David Tennant for me, don't get me wrong, he's brilliant all round.
Yeah.
But he was always at his best when he had a classic Who monster.
Yes.
Like, so when you had the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Master, the Sontarans.
Yes.
Like, those were the ones where he was at his best. The exception to that rule, the werewolf. Yes. I love the werewolf episode.
That was such a good episode. A very good episode. But this episode, Fear Her, is fantastic. I had forgotten. See, if you've seen the last episode, you would have seen how I was ever so slightly confused because I couldn't quite remember this episode. I couldn't remember it, and I couldn't remember that. I remembered vaguely that it was the Olympic episode, I believe. Which Ben thankfully reminded me that it was actually filmed, 8 years before the Olympics?
6.
6 years before the Olympics. And as two Brits, we probably remember 2012 very well. Obviously, you were in the country. I wasn't in the country. This is when I actually worked on the cruise ships. So I was actually very involved. We were doing Olympic celebrations for the guests. And I can actually remember watching it on the television. And I can remember our cruise director getting really, really, really angry at the Romanian bosun on the ship because he was interrupting the opening ceremony or the end ceremony. I can't remember which one, but I remember I had the night off, and I can remember how British I felt. And this episode has kind of brought back a lot of those memories to the point I've actually remembered like this conversation.
See. Go on.
No, go on.
No, I was going to say, I just remember the opening ceremonies being the best opening ceremonies the Olympics will ever have.
Yes, Boris and James Bond.
Just James Bond and the Queen.
Yes, it was an amazing time. And to be fair, I think Doctor Who kind of captured that vibe 6 years before that vibe even happened, because this episode was fantastic. You know how it's.
I was reading an article the other day. It's got a little bit of trivia for you here.
Okay.
Which very much ties into the Olympics and Doctor Who and James Bond.
Okay.
Because apparently, at one point, prior to Daniel Craig being cast as Bond, David Tennant was actually one of the people being considered.
That's interesting to know.
I was reading some article the other day.
I can totally see it, but also, as I was doing some research around this episode and I was looking for images and things like that, I discovered that Matt Smith had actually, ran with the Olympic torch.
Really?
Yeah. I'll get the picture and I'll put it up on the screen so everyone can see, because it kept. I originally was going to have the scores at the end of this episode as um the Olympic flame from this episode, and then it wouldn't give me a good image because Matt Smith. Because obviously this was it actually happened in real life, basically, and so it completely confused my searches, and it just ended up with just chaos.
Because you put Doctor Who Olympics, and
I
you
think
just
I
kept getting
put
that.
because obviously I didn't realize that this had actually happened. But yes, so it's quite funny because I didn't expect this. I didn't realize this would sort of happen at all. But yeah, so obviously it came up on it. I was like, oh, that's not what I expected.
Now,
I didn't realize that. Um,
if we'd known about this sooner, there would have been a chance for a real gag at the end, because obviously we do five. So just Photoshop different heads on, have Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, Jodie Whittaker, depending on what score it is.
yes, we could have. But yes, I've put it on the screen so that everyone can see that Matt Smith was actually he actually ran with the Olympic flame. But yes, so this episode, I really enjoyed it. I'd forgotten so much about this episode because I don't think I've watched it since the initial run. And what I liked is I liked the opening of this episode. The fact that we don't really know what's going on. We know that something is going on in this very, very British street. And you've got this woman who is like trying to warn people off, and people are mocking her and saying, "Oh, don't be silly, don't be silly." And then a child disappears, and it's very, very classic Doctor Who. I felt very mysterious in the fact that there wasn't anything flashy about it. It was very, it was very much just an everyday thing, and then this child disappears.
What I like is this episode very much does what Doctor Who was very good at in the classic series, which is low budget.
Yes, and this is
Like
very much what this episode is. This is the low budget episode of season 2. Other than the
one before this was probably lower budget.
Yeah, but I think
actually no, mind you, it had Peter Kay, so maybe not.
I don't know. This is the height. He's not. I wouldn't have said he was the height of popularity then.
Yeah, but you had Peter Kay, but then again, so although you've got a fair few decent actors in that episode, a lot of them weren't very well known at this point.
Yeah.
Because, for example, the guy who played Elton in that episode, the thing that I thought was best on was he was in the second season of The Musketeers, where he was the villain, and he was absolutely amazing. He was also in Wanted, but...
Yes. A lot of the actors that appear in Doctor Who, they don't get famous until later on. Like, you've got Sally Sparrow's actress. She doesn't get really famous until later on.
She's done other stuff?
Yeah, but at that point she hadn't.
Okay.
Oh, or do you mean like she's done other stuff?
No, that was a genuine question.
Oh, okay.
I haven't seen her in anything else.
Have you not? Oh,
no.
She's in so much else. Let me see if I can.
Sly.
We'll have a little side quest a moment. Let's have a little side quest so we can have a look. So we need season 3 because Blink's season 3, isn't it? Gridlock, 42, Human Nature. So yes, so Kerry Mulligan has been in tons of things. She's been in where's some of the
I've just pulled up her IMDb page.
Yeah. So like she's had like received like Golden Globe nominations. She's been in
she was in Shame with Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, she's been in quite a lot of things. She's won Critics Movie Awards. Yeah, she's done quite a lot. I'm just trying to get
Suffragette. I'm literally just going through IMDb.
Yeah.
Oh shit, she was in Gatsby.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She's been in tons of stuff.
I didn't even recognise her.
But that's a sign of a good actress that she has been in so many different things that you wouldn't recognise her. But
yeah, but I really like Gatsby. That's why it's surprising. I really enjoyed that film.
But yeah, so I just found like this episode was it started off really, really well. And what I kind of like about it is, I'm just trying to find. I've lost where my fingers now. There we go. So it kind of starts with the opening ceremony and like the things like that. And it's just a very, very run of the mill street in London. It kind of starts with the Doctor and Rose appearing, and you get that kind of funny scene with the fact that the Doctor, as per usual, cannot park the TARDIS. He faces it the wrong way, and he comes out and he's like, "Oh, okay," and then he turns the TARDIS around, and then you kind of get this really kind of nice scene where the Doctor and Rose are just walking along the street, and then they kind of stop to investigate, which is kind of funny because the Doctor is
nearly gets beaten up.
Yeah, he kind of gets. I was trying to find a slightly more diplomatic way of saying that, but yes, he pretty much nearly gets beaten up by the kid who had disappeared before the credits. Dad.
I couldn't tell if it was the kid's dad or if it was the dad of the kid's friend, because later on in the episode the older woman mentions the boy's name disappearing on your lawn, which implies it's not his lawn.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember it ever being made clear. I just assumed it was the dad, but it might not have been. But either way, you know, the Doctor pretty much nearly gets beaten up by this bloke because he's just sat there and he's like, ooh,
yeah, tickles.
It tickles, and you're like, ooh, and it's actually Rose who starts noticing other things. You know, she speaks to the contractor who notices that cars keep breaking down as they enter the streets. The fact that he's having to repavement roads because you've got the Olympic torch runners going along that street, so everything has to be perfect. And I like that about this episode, that it's very much Rose is the hero. Though later on the Doctor kind of takes that glory. I find that this episode very much is leading us towards Rose, Defender of Earth.
This is one of the few instances, and it sounds really bad, but it's one of the few instances in series 1 and 2 where Rose is actually given something to do.
Yeah, yes.
Because you can count on one hand the number of times it actually happens.
Yes. But I think that's very much them trying to hark back to how it was in the older series, where the Doctor is very much the hero.
Funny enough, yes, because the style of the Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant ones was very much in the same kind of style as the Tom Baker era of Doctor Who.
Yes.
That was what they were going for. It was very obvious.
Yes.
Not so much when I watched it as a kid, but rewatching it now. Yeah. Like, the way it's all written, as you say, it's very much the Doctor's the big hero. Yes.
Yeah. I don't feel very much that kind of changes until we get Donna Noble properly. Well, actually, no, I lied, because Martha, you kind of get that with Martha towards the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because you get the Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant run.
Yeah.
Very much plays in the same way as tail end of John Pertwee and Tom Baker.
Yeah.
It plays in a very similar manner.
Yeah.
And then with obviously Rose filling the Sarah Jane Smith role, which they even lampshade.
Yeah, oh God, don't they just, in School Reunion.
But I also love that episode.
Yes, it's a good episode. But I think this episode is a very good example of Rose Defender of Earth, and what we see from Rose in Army of Ghosts, Torchwood, and, you know, her appearances in season 4. I think it's a very similar vein. It's leading towards that. And I really enjoyed this episode. And then obviously it kind of leads forward into them discovering the girl.
Yeah, which, fun fact, because I was sat there watching it and I'm thinking, I recognise the girl's mum.
Yes. Yes.
And then I realised what's wrong. She was actually in Casanova with David Tennant.
Yes, but she's also in other stuff as well. What else is she in? She's in lots of other stuff as well. She's in
Yeah,
Hustle.
she's one of those actresses who pops up.
Yes, she's in I recognize it because she's the narrator for a CBBS bedtime TV series called Moon
Uh,
and Me. But she's also in Good Omens. What
See,
else?
I've not got very far into Good Omens.
I would give it a watch. What else is
It's on my
she
watch
in?
list. I've watched the first episode or two.
I also recognise her from watching over and over
Ooh.
again Jonathan Creek.
Yeah, I'm currently back on IMDb because I sense this is going to end up becoming a theme.
Yes, I think so because this episode is just so good with just how many
Yeah.
actors and actresses pop up.
She was in Love Actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So she's quite a good actress. But yeah, I recognise her more because obviously I have a tiny human who used to watch a lot
Yeah.
of CBBS. CBBS used to be the second parent in our house. I'm not gonna lie. As
Yeah.
any good parent will know, CBBS is life. But yes. So but to be fair, the actress plays a blinking good role in this as a mum.
Hmm.
And I can totally relate to the fact that she knows something is wrong, but she is denying it. You know, she
Hmm.
she very much recognizes that something has changed in her daughter, um, but she doesn't quite know what. But what this episode kind of is funny is with the fact that before they discover the house and the fact that they discover Trish and the little girl, what's the little girl's name again? Chloe Webber.
Hmm.
Before they discover Trish and Chloe, they get attacked by a squiggle monster.
No, that comes afterwards.
Does it?
I'm sure the Squiggle Monster was. No, you're right because that's how they come
That's
to
how
the
they find. That's
conclusion
how
about
they.
the drawings.
That's how they find it because they obviously then they track the squiggle monster.
After the Doctor realizes that it's made out of same graphite in a HP pencil.
Yeah. And it's like you said, it's very low budget, but it
Hmm.
works. It works
Yeah,
so well.
but
Um, but yeah, I find the fact that the Doctor and Rose get attacked by a squiggle
well,
monster.
it's more Rose does. The Doctor just kind of shows up and Sonics it.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's very basic, but it's
Yeah,
one of those scenes that's
although
basic but moves things along enough
yeah,
that we kind of get to the action.
we have jumped
Okay,
over one of my favourite bits though, which
okay.
is right at the start when they first get onto that street and they're talking and basically everyone's talking over each other. And then there's actually just literally just yells, "Fingers on the
Yes, but that was
and
actually that was how I was gonna think. I was gonna start the episode. To be fair, because I thought that would be quite funny. But
yeah.
we're so tired. We are tired,
But
man.
I love the fact that Rose is sort of okay. He's like, "Oh, you too."
Yeah,
Uh,
it's just like but this is very much classic Doctor Who with the comedy. You know, there's
hmm,
big moments where lots of things go wrong, lots of things change, and then but the
yeah,
Doctor or his companion add some comedy into it, and it's what makes Doctor Who. I feel it's very
yeah,
much that suspense, the comedy, and the sci-fi all together, and we don't actually see that in a lot of programs. I don't think at the moment. I think it's very much not.
yeah. I mean, ironically, at times Doctor Who tends to lose it.
Yeah.
Not a lot,
Hmm.
but it does do it, and particularly as you go further into David Tennant's run.
Yeah.
I think throughout series three, a lot of the comedy is gone because they sort of decided to really lean into sort of the tortured soul aspect of the character.
Yeah, which I don't mind, to be fair. I really enjoy the
Yeah,
lore that we kind of get around the Doctor, and like Matt Smith.
yeah,
Matt Smith, I think, was such a good Doctor because he played it so well. I will die on a hill if someone says that they do not think the 50th episode was one of the best episodes that they have ever done.
oh,
I
easily.
I will
Also,
die on that hill.
the thing is, one of the things that Matt Smith, David Tennant, and Peter Capaldi all did very well, and Christopher Eccleston to a lesser degree.
I don't think he was given as much time, or he didn't give
That's
himself
exactly
time.
why I'm not holding that too far against him. But they did this thing where the Doctor would go from really jovial to really tortured on such a dime you would get whiplash from it.
Mm,
And particularly Capaldi was very, very good with that.
yeah, I guess.
Like he literally 180, and it
Yeah,
would
there are some
be
episodes. Yeah, I can see. Yeah, there are some
the
episodes that
best
does have.
example is the Sontaran one with Capaldi, where he goes into the American game show host mode and starts taking the Mickey
Yeah,
when they've got the weapon that's going to blow up the Earth, basically.
yeah. I remember that one now. But yeah, but I think it's done very well in this episode,
Yeah.
and as we get further into this episode and we meet Chloe Webber, who the actress in this role is just utterly amazing. I'm trying to have a look. It doesn't
Yeah,
actually look like she's done any other roles according to Wikipedia.
see, I will say she is very, very good for a child actress.
Yeah,
Um, and that's not a dig. That is just a generally speaking, child actors tend not to be the best for obvious
yes.
reasons. They're children,
But I think this role that she was
but
playing,
she does well.
because she was playing two roles. Obviously, she's playing
Hmm.
Chloe Webber, and then she's playing the alien inside Chloe Webber,
The Isolus,
the
yeah,
Isolas. Who I think this is just such a sweet little thing that the Isolas, they basically travel in their family pod with their 4.2 billion siblings, and this is how Chloe has basically been taken over by this little child alien, is because Chloe's lonely, and this little child that has been disrupted from its family
hmm.
pod due to a solar flare has come to Earth, and her little pod's crashed. And she's obviously gone to Chloe because she's lonely, and it's such a sweet little story inside this big story of the fact that we
Yeah.
then find out that we find out what's happening in this street is obviously the Isola, um, and Chloe are drooling, and then Chloe Webber's drawings come to life, and we get the really scary moment where the drawing of her dad comes to life, which is terrifying.
It is here. I love what they're going for. I love, to be honest, most of the stuff they do with this. My only big gripe is this plays into a lot of stereotypes of what you tend to see with abusive parents in terms of how the dad's stuff's written.
I don't necessarily think it's too much of a stereotype.
Mm.
Just because I think, around that time there was a lot of
Mm.
stuff in the news.
Oh, I know there was.
I think it was used very well. I don't necessarily think it was stereotyped for that time.
mm,
I do necessarily think on a rewatch that it was.
mm,
But I think when this was done, it
mm,
wasn't so much of that, and it was done in such a way
mm. I will
that I
give them they
think,
do handle it very tastefully.
yeah, it's handled
Yeah,
very well, and obviously it's terrifying because you've obviously got this
yeah.
drawing of the dad.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, I think the whole plot is very well done. Obviously,
mm,
it's basic. We're using the basic plots.
yeah.
And obviously they're using the drawings to save on money, so that
Because they can literally just have their art department draw a load of different pictures.
yes, and obviously we get the scene where the doctor is then captured in the picture.
Yes, which I don't know. Oh, I know exactly why, actually, because I remembered it as Rose got captured.
Yes, I did too,
And
actually.
I then realised I was mixing up with the Idiot's
Yep,
Lantern,
me
which
too.
is the one in the 1950s
Yep,
during the
me too.
coronation.
100%. This is
Yeah,
exactly what I did. And this is why I think these rewatches are important
yeah,
because we've forgotten details or we've merged episodes like I did. What episode was
yeah.
I merging last week or the week before? What was the one that I merged?
So you were merging the girl who waited with one, but I can't remember what.
Yes, I can't
Ironically,
remember.
this is the episode that just went out when we we're
Yeah,
recording this, but I can't
yeah.
remember what it
But it was a
is.
while ago though. That
Yeah,
was
we recorded that weeks ago, and I haven't actually got round to listening to that one all the way
yeah.
through.
So yeah, I think it's a habit of with how many seasons we've had of Doctor Who that we merge episodes. But yeah, I merged this episode too.
Mm.
But obviously, how they did this episode and how they got rid of the Doctor in this episode was because obviously he is needed for
Mm.
a lot of the episodes that are coming up in the series final. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
you got to give the guy some like because he has a lot of well, as you tend to get in the series finales with Doctor Who,
yeah,
he has a lot of very long-winded dialogue coming up.
yes, yeah.
You've got to give him time to sit down with that.
Yeah, but this episode is it's very well done. You kind of get the guy, the contractor who comes in, who then becomes what's his name? Is it Kel? Is that what his name is? Kel?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think he's called Kel. But
To
he's
be
actually
the only
he's
I
been in lots of things too.
I recognize him.
Yeah.
He's one of those actors who just pops up.
He was in Love Actually, I think.
Yes, he was. He was the guy out of My Family's Mate.
Um
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know.
Uh,
I'm not entirely sure. I know that he played. I want to say that he was in the Wheel of Time as well. If I'm on the right person,
Wheel of Time. I'm only on episode 4.
and he was in Father Brown. So I'm thinking it's the same one.
He is in Wheel of Time. Uh, he was in EastEnders for 2 episodes.
He was in Casualty. He was in MI High, which I loved as a kid.
Yeah, he was in Casualty for quite a while.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, Love Actually, Tony,
yeah.
who,
So it's another
yeah,
one that then eventually had some amazing roles. But I like how he kind of takes on the role of Mickey in this episode. He very much
yeah,
is Rose's Mickey in this, and obviously he helps her dig up the road so that we can find
the
the
pod.
pod. And Rose is like, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this. And then you see the picture of the Doctor, who's pointing at the Olympic torch, and Rose remembers.
Which, what's interesting here is she points something out, which
Mm-hmm.
is Chloe and Isolus didn't draw the torch, the Doctor did. Now, none of the other people in those drawings have shown any ability to do this.
Yeah, I think that's more the fact that it's the Doctor and it's a little bit of storytelling because I don't think they would have been able to solve that problem without
Yeah,
that happening.
yeah, that was one of my biggest gripes in the episode when I watched it back because I'm like, it's a Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah, but I
It's
think I
a
think so,
Doctor Ex Machina.
I think sometimes it kind of does need to happen it to move the story along, and obviously Rose is like it's cold, and obviously that's when we get the
Mm.
idea to put it in the Olympic flame, and obviously
Yeah,
Rose throws it across the crowd into the Olympic flame, and the flame takes it on to the Olympic Stadium. But then they go and watch it on the television. They go to watch the run and the race happens because this is a thing in the UK. I don't know if it's a thing elsewhere in the world. Because we have it for the Commonwealth Games as well, don't we? That people take the
mm.
Commonwealth baton.
Yeah, and they run it through.
Yeah, and obviously this is done for anyone who doesn't really know about the Olympics or anything. But basically, the Olympic flame is kept in Greece, obviously where the Olympics started, and every time that there's an Olympics, the flame is basically taken from Greece to the
Mm.
country that it's
Mm.
in. So obviously this year they'll be taking the flame from Greece to Paris.
Yeah.
And then obviously I'm guessing there'll be an Olympic relay through France, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is just a British thing that we do. The
I always thought that all the countries did it, but
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong.
yeah, maybe that's something that someone can enlighten
Oh
us
yeah,
on in this.
yes.
But
Someone in the comments, please tell us
yeah,
if
because
other countries are as crazy and stupid
yeah,
as
because obviously
Brits.
I remember this in 2012 as being a massive thing. You could go on the ballot to be included in it. It was a big, yeah, it was a big thing, man.
Yeah, I
Like,
vaguely remember that being a thing, and I remember thinking I couldn't think of anything worse.
yeah, and obviously, in this episode, they kind of highlight this, which is quite funny. That I find that they highlight how it was the Olympic relay was just going through just normal British streets, like it
Hmm.
literally was just going through random British streets across the
Yeah.
country on its way to London. And this is the final leg of this relay, and the runner collapses.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, oh no, oh no. And who should appear? The
Then
doctor.
guess who?
The doctor appears and he starts running with
Which
Flame.
which is funny because this is almost a Chekhov's gun point because earlier on in for those who don't know, Chekhov's gun is the theory in performance that if you see a gun in the first act of something, by the end of the third act, that gun must be fired.
Okay, right.
Um, so I believe it's the third act. It may be the second, but it's been a long time since I studied it.
Yeah.
I graduated university nearly 10 years ago. Oh, now I feel old. Anyway, um, at the start of the episode, the doctor comments how he'd been before and he really wanted to run with the Olympic flame.
Yes.
He makes the comment at the start of the episode,
Yes.
and he also makes a comment on something else that appears right at the end.
Yes.
Which so
Edible
we
ball
got
bearings.
yeah, we have two instances of Chekhov's
Love
gun
it.
in one scene.
I love it. But yeah, so obviously it's I actually found myself getting quite choked at this because you've got the commentary. I'm not going to go into who the commentary is by because that has not aged well whatsoever. Um,
I don't actually know.
Hugh Edwards.
I've got to show my lack of paying attention to lots of things.
Um,
Just tell me later.
yeah. It's a bit awkward. But
That's why I'm
obviously,
saying tell me later.
yeah,
Tell by your face.
but yes, so he's a BBC commentary. He's the guy that announced the Queen passing away and everything. But obviously, there's been a lot that's happened since then. So it hasn't aged well. But he's like, oh well, the Olympic flame has been picked up by someone and no one seems to want to stop him. And I found myself getting quite choked up because I kind of get a bit choked up at like these type of things anyway. And obviously you've got the doctor he's going up to the Olympic flame and he's going up to the bowl and he lights the bowl and then you see
Yeah,
you see the little pod go off and meet its
yeah.
brothers and sisters. And I'm like,
See, ironically, I had the inverse reaction to this because this scene actually lost it, or rather, this scene and what they're using to explain why it has to be the Olympic flame somewhat lost this point with me. I didn't like it's a beacon of heat and hope and it's a beacon of love, and they keep going on about that, and it's just like this is just twee. This is really, really twee.
yeah, but it is, in the Olympic year, you cannot be saying that about the Olympics, man.
Yes, I can.
No,
Uh,
man.
right. For context, in the recent discussion that aired where I was talking about favorite TV shows, I mentioned Reacher. I love that because it's anything but sweet and nice.
Yes, but Doctor Who has to have these moments for character development. But yes, so the little alien pod goes off,
Yeah,
and then we get this scene, which I think is really beautiful. You've got like all the families reuniting properly, and then you've got Rose and the Doctor just walking along, and Rose is like, "Oh, we're gonna be together forever," while they're eating edible ball bearings, and
mm,
you just know, you just know that it's all gonna go wrong next episode. You know,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, the ending does some very heavy-handed foreshadowing.
Oh, get the torchwood, not the torchwood, the doomsday theme
Dooms.
at the end of this episode.
Yeah, you get the
Just a couple,
leitmotif from it.
yeah, just a couple of beats, and you just know before you even see the trailer for next episode that you know that shit's gonna go down basically.
Yeah, ironically, because I watched the next time bit at the end of
Yeah.
this, and I never realized they actually spoil the twists at the end of part one
Yes.
and not in anything that they show directly, but because obviously, can I say the twist?
Yeah.
Yeah, because the whole twist at the end of part one of the next of the two-part at the end of the season is you've got this sphere, and then it's the Daleks come out.
Yeah.
Except for you see the Dalek extermination ray in that trailer.
Yeah. So
It's just like,
but
oh,
I don't remember it being revealed.
I didn't notice that.
I don't remember it being revealed.
See, I don't think they changed the next time for it. I
No.
think it's just a case of at the time because they put so much focus on the Cybermen.
Yeah.
I think very much that's all you really think about. That's all you really think about. You just keep seeing the Cybermen. That's what they're going on about.
Yeah.
And
So, what's your score for this episode then?
3 out of 5.
3 out of 5. Olympic rings. Oh, Olympic flags. Because the rings didn't work because black on black it wasn't working. So
yeah,
Olympic flags. Why are you giving this a score of 3 flags out of 5?
So I'm gonna start by explaining how I actually grade these episodes.
Okay.
Every episode starts at 5.
Okay.
I start at the perfect score.
Okay.
It then gets knocked down depending on what we have. So first of all, the bit we were just discussing about it getting very twee at the end, that lost it a point. Just because it's not to my personal tastes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, ironically, it's just I can't even properly put into words what lost it the other point. It's just got lots of little bits throughout the episode that I'm like, really? And it was basically all the nitpicks built up.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So I'm giving it a very strong 3.
Okay, I am giving it a very similar score because I do not think it's quite as high as Doomsday and the 50th anniversary episodes. But I don't think it's a bad episode. It's got things that I really enjoy. It's got, cuteness. It's got the twee because I like the twee. I like an episode where we've got the twee. Yeah. It's got good relationships. I just think there was just something missing, and I can't put my finger on what's missing, but there is something very much missing about this episode. Yeah, but I think it's a very, very solid 3. If it had maybe, I don't know, if maybe there was something a little bit less, if we'd had more maybe character development with Chloe and Trisha, I think maybe it would have gone up to a 4. I know that these are NPCs, to use a writing term. I think we would have got to like the characters ever so slightly better.
The problem is so one of the big mistakes they make is in that initial scene they introduce about a dozen random characters, most of whom vanish.
Yeah.
But because they still take time to introduce these characters, you lose out on time they could use to build the other ones.
Yeah.
And ironically, one such instance is the bloke who nearly punches the Doctor in the face.
Yeah, you kind of don't really see him again. He's just a background actor.
He is literally there for that joke.
Yeah.
And ironically,
that's literally all it is.
The episode loses nothing by, as much as I love that joke.
Yeah.
It loses nothing by taking it out. It's the same as,
or it could have been the old lady. She could have just been like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. Same as it. Like, one of my favourite bits of the episode is when Rose gets the pickaxe to dig up the road.
Yeah.
And you've got Kel goes, You
I've
go,
just
get out of that,
learned
it's
that.
council van.
Yeah.
You've just taken a council axe out of a council van. Now you're using a council axe from a council van to dig up a council road.
Yeah.
I'm calling the council.
It's a very good scene, and this is kind of why I like that character, because
Yeah.
though he plays into the tropes of being the council man, it's
Yeah.
very well done.
Yeah. But again, as much as I love it, and I do, ironically, that's part of the reason why it stayed at such a strong 3, because this episode does do that comedy really well.
Yeah.
But it also, I think sometimes it gets lost in that comedy.
Yeah.
Like they forget that, because the episode starts off by setting up a very strong horror story.
Yeah.
Which then very quickly pivots into a comedy.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of pivots in genre in this episode. So yeah, it's yeah, all of those things are very much why it's a 3 for me. It's not it's not but it's definitely not a bad episode. It's not as bad as some episodes that I have seen.
Yeah.
Should we see what we get next?
Yeah, go on.
Okay.
Let's spin that wibbly wobbly timey-wimey wheel.
Let's hope and pray that I do it correctly this time. There we go.
Come on, let's give Chris the blanks. We
no,
know Chris wants the
they are
blank.
100% taken out this time. Right, let's go.
Chris will be sad.
I know, bless him. There we go. Ooh, season 8, and Listen.
Ooh. No, that's not the one that I watched a couple of days ago.
So you can find out which episode it is.
I know which episode it is. That's episode 4. That's the one where the doctor's going on about the monster that's always there. You get the bedsheet monster at one point, where it's very clearly just they put a kid under a bedsheet.
Oh, yes. I vaguely remember it now.
At the end, you've got the bit with Clara with the child version of the first Doctor on Gallifrey in the barn.
Yes. That episode. Oh my goodness, yes. That episode. I'm excited now because that is a good episode.
So for me, that was one of the early points that really cemented Capaldi's run for me. But also, it's one of the earliest points where because they were trying to differentiate him from David Tennant and Matt Smith from the word go.
Yeah.
But that was one of the first. So, because they did it very well in Deep Breath.
Yeah.
And then the following couple of episodes, they didn't do it so well.
No.
Particularly Robots of Sherwood.
Yes.
And then this was where, again, they got it bang on the money.
Yeah.
Like, it's where Capaldi started to come into his own a little bit more.
Yes. But yeah, it should be a good episode then.
Also, we haven't had any Capaldi yet. So
we haven't had any Capaldi. I was really actually hoping for a Capaldi one, to be fair, because we've had everything other than Christopher Eccleston now.
Yeah, fair enough. I was hoping for Eccleston or Capaldi.
But it's a hard one because Eccleston has done a lot less. So
mathematically, he's a lot less likely to come up.
Yeah. So I think that's a good place to leave it. And then next time you can watch us review and listen, which would be exciting. So until next time, take care. Bye.
Bye.